On our Saturday book feature this morning, we take a look at an inspiring and motivational book titled It Sounds Only Like Yesterday. Now, this book is penned by musician, educator and now author Nana Ndlovana Mthimkhulu, and it explores the story of Lindiwe, a teenage scribe that goes through so many trials and tribulations but ends up finding solace in words. And to tell us more about the contents of this offering, Nana joins me now in studio. Ma'am Mthimkhulu, very good morning to you and welcome.
Morning, Simphiwe, and
It Only Sounds Like Yesterday. That's a very, I would say, catchy title. Take us through the significance of this title.
The significance of the title is to show and reveal what happens at an instance but keeps on reverberating through time.
Yeah.
That's why it sounds only like yesterday. It can be today, it can be tomorrow, it can be any other time. It becomes a leitmotif.
Mm-hmm. And you start the book by painting us Lindiwe's struggle as she battles to find a school. Take us through that moment.
Lindiwe was supposed to go to school, but then she was rejected by a number of schools because that time being admitted at a boarding school was quite very strict and stringent. So when she had lost all hopes of ever becoming a student that year, then the mother comes and says, Lindiwe, you're leaving tomorrow. I found you a space at a school. Can you imagine when you have lost all hope and suddenly on a particular night your mom says, tomorrow morning you are leaving. And that's just what happened.
And you're saying this is actually an anticlimax. Why would you describe it in this manner?
It's an anticlimax because there she is down and low.
Yeah.
But then she goes high up and gets to go to school. Quite unexpected, you know.
Let's talk about this Lindiwe character. She eventually finds a school and goes there and instantly becomes popular at her school.
And she was a very quiet person. But what makes her popular is that the things she does, she does them so gracefully. And she's quite kind, but when she talks, she says things quite genuine. And, you know, people feel, wow, can she really talk? And, oh, she's quite a nice person. Then she becomes popular and she joins quite a number of activities that the girls do at school. But
that popularity at some point dies down and then she goes back to her little miserable corner.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she does go back to a miserable corner because there's a time when she tries to venture out into life, just like any other teenager, trying to find a lover for herself, but then she doesn't, and she remains quiet and quite comfortable in her solace. Yeah. But then well, her family supports her, but they don't know what her problem is.
Yeah, and apart from the family being the support structure that have been through her, through the successes and the downfalls, who else is there?
She belongs to a youth club in a church. You know, young girls and boys at times would like to go to church. They belong to a youth club. They sing, they perform. They've got all these little concerts and they meet and they find a company in such little groups of their own peers.
And you write so effortlessly about Lindiwe's pain and poverty and misery, and you did it so beautifully. How did you manage to capture it so well?
You know that at times when people write plays, films, books, there is that catching line. Names of people and places have been changed to protect innocent people involved. Fortunately, I know Lindiwe and very close to Lindiwe. So the things she would say would tinge me and I'd be part of her and I'd feel very comfortable being with her. And I would share with her misery and feel, wow, if no one comforts you, here I am, I'll comfort you, I'll listen to your story. Fortunately, I'm a storyteller myself and writing, it's just fun.
Right, right. I mean, what inspired you to write this book? I mean, is it was it inspired by a life story or someone that you know of?
There are quite a number of stories that we might know, some we might not know. But if you listen and read and watch some of the stories, you identify with the stories. Like at times when you watch TV, you see this story where someone suffers and nobody comes to help. You feel like jumping to the screen and saying, but who can help now? You know, some of these stories are not known. And then you can imagine how psychologically the people get affected. You want to do something good, you are hurt, you are miserable, and no one comes to you. And such people do need to be comforted, because what harm did Lindiwe do? Lindiwe was just miserable, could not find comfort, could not find love, but she was just this nice person. When are we going to value and appreciate people in their miseries? Must we only appreciate a person who receives a rose? Let's appreciate the miserable people as well and say, wow, we have fought a battle and here you are now.
Yeah, to make them feel they are loved and appreciated.
Yes, yes.
And you dedicated this book and the story and the contents thereof to your late father. Why?
My father used to tell me stories, and my father loved writing. And one time he told me such a lovely story that I wrote, and it became a reader for grade 1 learners. So each time I think of my father and the stories, I get this zest of writing and writing endlessly.
Wow. So where do we get hold of this book? I mean, where should it go?
And I've got the book myself, but I'm trying to get someone who's going to distribute the book.
Okay.
In 2 days' time, I'll be getting a response, and then I'll be knowing as to who's going to distribute and where. Okay. But at the moment, I do have the copies because I'm also a publisher myself.
Right, right. So where do they find you in order to get a copy of this book? And how would you know that you find a distributor? Are you on social? Do you have a social media page?
You can find me on email. You can find me on my number, and I'm on Facebook as well.
I prefer the email. What's your email address?
It's a Nana Story, N-A-N-A, story as S-T-O-R-Y, at vodamail.co.za.
Okay. So what's the underlying lesson, or that we can take away after reading this book?
The lesson is appreciate everything that you see happening, because nothing happens for no reason. Whatever happens in front of you, take a lesson on that. For instance, it does mean that if you are hurt and miserable, that's the end of everything. No, you can move on from there, because the future is born from the past, the present, and then comes out a glorious future.
Future born from the past. I love that. Mthimkhulu, thank you so much for joining us. You really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, and all the best in the book.
Thank you very much.
That was author Nana Ndlovana Mthimkhulu speaking to us about a book titled It Sounds Only Like Yesterday.